boarded the Midnight Zephyr because it was cheap, because it ran when flights didn't, and because storm warnings had chewed up every other plan I'd made. The station agent slid my ticket under the glass and said, "You'll want car 7, like it mattered in a way I didn't yet understand. Outside, the Rockies were a black saw blade against a bruise-colored sky. Snow came down in a fine, nearly invisible hiss. The train announced itself with a long, hollow horn that felt too big for the space. When it pulled in, the wind blew the snow sideways and the platform lights turned the flakes into drifting ash. The Zephyr's windows were dark mirrors. I couldn't see a single passenger inside. I told myself everyone was asleep. That was the whole point of a sleeper, wasn't it? You sleep, and in the morning, different mountains are outside. A conductor met me at the door, the brim of his cap shedding droplets like a slate roof. He didn't speak at first. He simply held out a gloved hand for my ticket. The gloves were leather, neat and oiled, the kind older men took pride in. He punched the ticket with a small brass device that clicked too loudly, and when he gave it back, the rectangular piece he'd snipped off fell onto my boot and stuck there like a paper scab. He made no move to brush it away. "Car 7, he said finally. His voice had a roughness to it, a radio station static, and he didn't ask if I needed help, just watched me pass. As I climbed the metal steps, I caught my reflection in the window, drawn and tired, eyes a little too bright. Behind me, in the reflection only, the conductor smiled. When I glanced back, he wasn't smiling at all. Inside smelled like old varnish and the kind of detergent that clings to motel towels. The aisle carpet had a geometric pattern that repeated every 3 feet like a ritual you had to step through. Luggage racks sat above the seats, chrome dulled by fingerprints that never seemed to come off. The car hummed, a soft, living sound, not just machinery, but a throat preparing to speak. Car 7 wasn't empty. It had people, which should have been comforting. A woman in a traveling shawl slept diagonally across 2 seats with a hat box under her knees. Across from her, a kid my age, or maybe younger, wore a 3-piece suit that looked ripped from a sepia photograph. It wasn't the style that unnerved me so much as the way the fabric didn't shine. New suits gleamed. This one drank the light. He stared through the window with a patience I associated with statues. Past them, a family of 4, father folded like a pocket knife, mother holding a toddler, a girl barely old enough for school curled against the window. They breathed in unison. I mean it, like they were sharing a single set of lungs. My berth number, 7C, was on a small plaque with a screw missing from one corner. The berth itself was a narrow compartment with a seat that folded out into a bed. I slid my backpack beneath, took off my wet jacket and pressed the call button for bedding, just to see. No one came. The button clicked under my thumb with a tiny, brittle sound like biting a sugar crystal. The overhead lights dimmed by increments, as if a hand were slowly covering a lamp. Outside, the station slipped away. We moved like a knife through paper, quiet, sure, edged. The conductor's voice came on the intercom, low and oddly framed, like he'd been recorded in a tiled bathroom. "Good evening, passengers. Next stop, Caldwell Ridge, 2:27 a.m. Dining car is closed. Please remain in your assigned cars." I checked the time on my phone. 12:41 a.m. My signal bar was an empty ladder. Fine, I had podcasts downloaded. But when I opened one, the audio warped and fluttered like someone was running a finger along the edge of the tape. I switched to music instead and lasted 30 seconds before the song sounded like it was being played on a hand-cranked gramophone and I yanked the earbuds out. The window frosted from the inside. I rubbed a circle with my cuff and looked out into the storm, except I couldn't tell if it was snow or ash. The flakes weren't tumbling so much as settling straight down, and every few seconds the glass vibrated with a breath I could feel on my cheek. I tried to sleep. I did the inventory of everything I'd worry about in the morning. Overdue emails, a cousin's wedding gift still not bought, the fact that the zipper on my jacket snagged at the collar. I counted backwards from 300. I think I dozed, little drifts of darkness with sharp wakes between them. At one of those surfacings, I realized the car was too quiet. Even sleepers make noise. Human bodies are leaky, fussy things, coughs and snores and throat clears. Car 7 breathed, but not like that. It was the hush you get in old cathedrals, the kind of quiet that doesn't like being challenged. I sat up and noticed two things at once. The boy in the suit had his head tilted toward me without looking directly, and the woman with the hatbox was smiling. Too widely, her lips with a red of old nail polish, the kind that turns brittle. She didn't blink. "Hi," I whispered, because whispering seemed appropriate. My voice felt out of place. Her smile didn't change. The boy's gaze slid back to the window. I was about to chalk it up to sleep paralysis or that weird social inertia that happens in public places, when I caught the reflection of the aisle in the window, the kind you see when the light inside is brighter than outside. The conductor stood 2 rows back, looking at me in the reflection only. When I turned, the aisle was empty. My skin goosebumps itself in a wave. I decided to walk. A change of scene would shake the cobwebs. I slipped into the aisle and threaded past the sleeping family. The little girl's eyes were open. At first I thought she was awake and just very still. Then I realized the open eyes were the painted kind you used to get on dolls. Perfect, unmoist, glossy. The toddler made a sound so soft it fell apart before it reached my ears. The vestibule between cars breathed colder. A rubberized accordion joint stretched and collapsed with our movement. I pressed the silver button to open the door to the next car. It hissed obediently and slid aside. I stepped through and came out into car 7. At least my brain told me that's what it was. Same carpet pattern repeating like a spell. Same woman smiling too widely. Same boy with the light drinking suit. Same family breathing like a bellows. My berth 7C stared back at me with its one missing screw. Sometimes when you're very tired, reality ripples. You misjudge a stare. You reach for a handle that isn't there. I told myself I had simply gotten turned around. I went back through the vestibule, watched the door seals flex, and stepped into the next car. Car 7 greeted me with its hushed, patient hum. I don't know how long I played the polite game with myself. This is normal. You'll laugh about it. Your brain is a jar of bees and it's fine. The 4th time I came out into my own berth, the laugh I'd prepared didn't arrive. I felt something like a moth work its feet along my scalp. "Conductor," I said. I didn't press the call button. I set it to the air like a prayer. He answered from behind me. "Sir," he said, which is such an ordinary word that I almost wept with relief. "You'll want to remain in your assigned car." I turned. He stood with his cap brim low enough to shadow his eyes. Up close, the brass badge on his lapel had letters I didn't recognize, curlicue script that wanted to be English but wasn't. The leather gloves creaked when he folded his hands. "I was trying to find the dining car," I said, "or any car that isn't this one." "Closed," he said, "all night." His voice had the same recorded echo as the PA, as if he'd never been permitted to learn to speak in an ordinary room. "But," I gestured at the vestibule, "is this looping?" His head tilted like I had asked what color the number 7 was. "Storm protocols." Stay in car 7. A pause. It's the safest. From what? His smile was a small, neat incision. From the outside. He stepped past me then, and for a brief second the temperature dropped. Frost climbed the window glass in a fern pattern, beautiful and somehow greedy. The conductor touched each latch on the luggage rack as he walked, a ritual of small, exact movements. The boy in the suit never looked up. The woman with the hatbox never blinked. "Tickets," the conductor said, and everyone produced them like they had been waiting for this command their entire lives. Paper whispered. Stubs clicked. When he reached me, he didn't ask for mine. He put his hand, the gloved one, on the plaque that read 7C and pressed like he was checking a pulse. "That screw's been missing since August," he remarked. Conversational as a barber. 1956. I told my mouth to laugh. Instead it said, "What?" He took his hand away. "Rest, sir." Caldwell Ridge at 2:27. My phone read 1:19 a.m. I watched it for a minute. It became 1:18, then 1:17, then 1:19 again, like the digits were shuffled by a bored dealer. Battery at 82%, then 86, then 82. No bars, no Wi-Fi. The offline map wouldn't load. I sat because standing made the train feel like it was swaying in a way that didn't line up with the movement of my body. The hum wrapped around me like a thick blanket. I heard the woman across the aisle murmur, a sound like a spoon turning in tea. "Cold night," she said, without moving her lips. I looked at her. The red polish on her mouth was flawless, but close up I could see the tiniest cracks at the corners, like dried riverbeds. "Where are you headed?" I asked, because small talk is the rope you throw into bad water. "Last stop," she said. The boy in the suit chuckled, and even his laugh sounded like it had to cross a very large room to reach me. He rearranged his cuffs. His shirt had monogrammed initials, HM. The thread was the same color as bone. "You traveling alone?" I said, and I don't know which of them I was asking. "Everyone rides alone," the boy said, not looking away from the window. "That's why people take the sleeper." The family of 4 breathed, in and out, and I found myself synchronizing to the rhythm because it was either that or forget how to do it altogether. Outside, the snow thickened into a white nothing. Sometimes the train passed through stretches where there was no weather at all, just blackness so complete I knew, without needing to prove it, that if I opened the window and put my hand out, I wouldn't feel air. The conductor made another announcement, his voice warm as a dead light bulb. "We remind passengers that passage between cars is restricted during inclement conditions. Please remain seated. Tickets will be collected again before Caldwell Ridge." "Again?" I muttered. "Why again?" "Storm protocols," the woman said, her hatbox bumping softly against her knees with the vibration of the rails. The box was the old kind with a leather strap and tarnished latch. A faint, unfamiliar perfume came from it, powder and violets and something peppery. The scent tugged at a memory I didn't own. "Some people always forget," she added, as if that explained anything. My eyelids got heavy. The hum ran along my bones. I told myself I would close my eyes for exactly 5 breaths and then stand and walk to the end of the car and keep opening doors until they let me into a different one by sheer embarrassment. I reached 5. I stretched to 6. When I opened my eyes, my cheek was cold where it had rested against the window, and a pale oval had bloomed on the glass like I'd breathed myself into it. The frost had grown around my print. Frames within frames, trap within trap. The conductor stood at the end of the aisle, far away and very still, like a figure painted smaller to suggest distance. He raised a hand and tapped the face of his pocket watch with the tip of one gloved finger. Even across the car I heard the tap. It sounded like a metal drip in a cavern. 227, he said. Caldwell Ridge. My phone, traitor that it was, read 2:27 a.m. The boy with the monogrammed cuffs sat up straighter. The family's breathing stuttered once and then continued like a machine clearing its throat. The woman with the hatbox unlatched it by exactly one notch and the hinge made the softest sound I have ever heard. Almost there, she told me, and her painted mouth didn't move at all. The words came from the shadow under her hat. The train slowed so gently I almost missed it. The hum deepened. The carpet pattern seemed to repeat faster, like we had walked more steps than we owned. Outside, the white nothing thinned into a gray station platform with a sign that read Caldwell Ridge in letters that had been repainted many times. A single lamp burned at the far end. Snow sifted around it, hissing. Something in me unclenched. Stations are real. Platforms are mechanics and schedules and the weather's bright inconveniences. I stood, grabbed my bag, and told myself I would step onto that platform if only to prove it was made of concrete. Remain in your assigned car, the conductor said, and I realized he was closer than before without having moved. I'm stretching my legs, I said. You said Caldwell Ridge. Caldwell Ridge, he agreed. And the odd thing was, I believed he was telling the truth even as he blocked the vestibule with his body. Storm protocols. From the outside, I said. He looked over my shoulder. For half a second, his face slipped. I don't mean his expression changed, I mean his face, like the idea of a face, misaligned and was corrected by an unseen hand. It made me think of the door seals in the vestibule, flexing to accommodate pressure. From what? I asked again, because I had to. He touched 2 fingers to the brim of his cap. From leaving. The doors didn't open. The platform drifted past, a single lamp in a universe that failed to be anywhere. The sign, Caldwell Ridge, slid by the window, letter by letter, like reading someone else's dream. We didn't stop. The hum climbed back to its patient pitch. The family of 4 breathed. The boy smoothed his cuffs. The woman's hatbox, latched again, sat like a lapdog, unblinking and smug. My berth's missing screw glinted like an eye that didn't much care what it saw. The conductor returned to his post at the end of the car, and for the first time since boarding I saw the little brass plate above the door, the one I had missed because I thought I knew what it would say. The letters were stamped in the same curlicue script as his badge, and when I squinted they arranged themselves into something my brain insisted was English. Last stop, it said, and beneath in smaller letters, the kind that you only notice once you've already read your fate, please remain seated. I pulled my backpack closer as though nylon and zippers could anchor me in reality. The boy in the suit hadn't shifted from his rigid pose, still staring at the storm. His eyes reflected nothing, no light, no flicker from the carriage lamps, just flat, glass-dark orbs. The family across the aisle stirred, but not like people waking up. It was more like a clock chiming the next hour. Their heads tilted in unison. The father cracked his neck with a wet pop. The mother whispered to the toddler in a language I didn't recognize, and the little girl's painted eyes blinked for the first time. Slowly, mechanically. I sank back into my seat and pressed my phone on again. Still no service. The clock glitched, spinning back and forth between numbers, refusing to commit to time. That was when the woman with the hatbox finally spoke to me. You look tired. Her lips parted only slightly, but the voice didn't fit. Too smooth, too steady. It didn't catch on breath or tremble like a human voice. It was flat and exact, like a line spoken from memory. "I didn't sleep much before boarding," I said. She tilted her head, smile stretching thin. "That's why you're here." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the boy in the suit chuckled again, that faraway sound like laughter carried across a canyon. I stood, needing to move. The carpet's geometric pattern shifted beneath my steps, repeating faster and faster, like it was trying to trip me. When I reached the far end of the car, I pressed my palm against the window. Frost burned my skin instantly, and when I pulled away, I saw not a handprint, but an outline of bones. Only bones. I stumbled back. The woman's smile hadn't faltered. Behind me, the little girl giggled, a high glassy sound. I turned, and her doll-like eyes followed me. The toddler clapped once, and for the first time, the mother whispered in English, "Stay in your seat. He doesn't like when you walk." "Who?" I whispered back. Her smile was almost apologetic. "The conductor." The intercom buzzed to life before I could answer. The conductor's voice crawled through the car like smoke. "Reminder, passengers must remain seated during the passage through the ridge." Safety first. The train lurched. My stomach rose like an elevator dropping too fast. The storm outside had cleared just enough to reveal the mountain walls pressing close on either side. We were cutting through a narrow gorge, jagged stone rising higher than the light could touch. And then I saw them. Figures lined the ridge, dozens of them standing on the snowy ledges, staring down at the train. Their silhouettes were wrong, too long in the arms, too sharp in the heads. They didn't move as the train passed. They simply turned their faces, in perfect unison, following us. I pressed closer to the glass, desperate for detail, and for 1 second, just one, I saw their eyes. Empty sockets, glowing faintly like embers buried under ash. The boy in the suit leaned toward the window beside me. His breath fogged the glass, and he whispered, "They're waiting for us." Panic set in. I bolted for the vestibule, slammed the silver button, and shoved the door open. I stumbled into the next car. My heart dropped. Car 7. The same pattern. The same family. The same boy. The same smiling woman with the hat box. Except now the box was open, just an inch. And I swore I saw fingers, pale and jointed, drumming against the lid from the inside. I turned, ready to demand answers from the conductor, but he was already there, standing in the aisle, pocket watch dangling from his gloved hand. "Sir," he said, his static, rough voice echoing too loudly, "you'll want to stay put. Passing through the ridge is dangerous." "What ridge? What are those things outside?" He tilted his head, eyes lost in shadow beneath his cap. "You'll see." Soon enough. The train wailed as it plunged deeper into the gorge, and the passengers around me sat straighter, eyes unblinking, as though preparing for some grim ritual I hadn't been invited to understand. And in that moment I realized something that curdled my blood. The conductor hadn't asked to see my ticket. Not once. The train thundered deeper into the gorge, swallowed by walls of black rock and shadow. I pressed my forehead against the glass, needing the cold to remind me I was real. But even the frost seemed wrong. It didn't melt against my skin. It clung, growing outward, delicate tendrils tracing patterns like veins. Behind me, the family of 4 exhaled in unison. The sound was so heavy, so mechanical, that for a heartbeat I wondered if they were lungs at all. The boy in the suit finally turned from the window. His face was pale in a way that wasn't illness but absence, like the color had been scraped away. "You don't belong here," he said. My throat went dry. "I bought a ticket, same as anyone." His smile was faint, pitying. "No, you were given a ticket." He tapped his breast pocket where his own stub should have been. I realized I had never seen it. None of them carried tickets, only me. The boy tilted his head toward the window. "Do you know what happened here? To us?" I shook my head, though my gut already knew I wouldn't want the answer. "There was a derailment," he said calmly. "Winter, 1956. The rails iced over. The train fell into the gorge. Everyone here was on board." My chest tightened. "You're saying, I'm saying," he interrupted softly. "You're sitting among the dead." The woman with the hatbox laughed then. It was thin and shrill, like a violin string stretched too far. "He doesn't believe you," she said, her painted mouth still frozen in that impossible smile. "They never believe at first." She unlatched the box, just a fraction more. This time I saw what was inside. A scrap of newspaper, folded and yellowed, with a headline I caught in flashes as the train's lights strobed. "Fatal train disaster. 27 dead in Caldwell Ridge wreck." Her hand stroked the paper like it was a pet. "This was my story," she murmured. "My death in print. My whole life reduced to 2 paragraphs." The intercom buzzed again. The conductor's voice filled the car, calm, deliberate. "Tickets will be collected once more before the last stop. Prepare yourselves." This time, he stepped into the car as he spoke, pocket watch swinging like a pendulum. He didn't glance at anyone else, only at me. "You've ridden further than most," he said, standing too close. "But the journey isn't over." "I don't belong here," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm not dead." The conductor tilted his head, shadows swallowing his eyes. "Aren't you?" My stomach lurched. I thought of the storm before I boarded, the ice on the platform, the slip I nearly took on the stairs. Had I fallen? Hit my head? Was this the ride after? "No," I whispered. "No, I'm alive." The conductor didn't argue. He simply smiled, thin, patient, and tapped the pocket watch. Its face was cracked, the hands forever frozen at 2:27. The train plunged into a tunnel. Absolute darkness pressed in. The lamps inside flickered, throwing shadows that didn't match the passengers' movements. For a brief second, every pale face turned toward me, and their lips moved in unison. "Join us," they whispered. "Join us." The family's breathing slowed, then stopped. The toddler's small hands went limp. The boy in the suit reached for my arm, his fingers cold as stone. I jerked away, heart hammering, and for the first time I truly understood. No one else here was alive. And if I didn't find a way off this train before the last stop, I wouldn't be either. The tunnel swallowed everything. No light from outside, no storm, no mountains, just the train's lamps flickering against black walls that seemed to press closer each second. The hum beneath my feet grew louder, deepening into something that felt less like machinery and more like a pulse. I gripped the armrests, forcing myself to breathe. Across the aisle, the family of 4 hadn't moved since their whisper of "join us." Their eyes were open, staring blankly forward, their bodies perfectly still. Too still. The conductor stood at the far end of the car, pocket watch dangling, the chain swinging with the rhythm of the train. His lips moved, but his voice came through the intercom instead, echoing all around me. "Last stop approaching! Please remain seated. Do not attempt to leave your car." I rose anyway. My instincts screamed, If I stayed, I would never leave this train alive. The conductor's head turned sharply. The brim of his cap still hid his eyes, but I felt his stare burn through me. "Sit!" he said. This time his voice wasn't static. It was a command, heavy and sharp. My legs trembled. I wanted to obey. Every nerve screamed that to disobey him was to break some ancient, unwritten law. But I forced myself forward toward the vestibule. I shoved the silver button and yanked the door open. The accordion joint between cars stretched and groaned. I stepped through. Car 7. Of course. Same carpet. Same boy in the suit. Same woman with her cursed hatbox. But this time things were different. Their eyes followed me. The boy smiled with teeth too white, too even. The family turned their heads in perfect synchronization. "Going somewhere?" the boy asked softly. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. The train shook violently, throwing me against the window. Outside, the tunnel walls blurred as though the train was moving faster than the world could keep up. And then I saw them again, silhouettes pressed against the glass. Not outside on the ridge, but inside the tunnel walls, keeping pace with the train. Their eyeless sockets glowed faintly as they reached out with arms longer than human. The glass bowed inward. The passengers stirred. The family stood in unison. The little girl's painted eyes blinked too fast, clicking softly. The toddler clapped once, twice, rhythmically. The woman with the hatbox rose, clutching it to her chest like a Bible. "The last stop," she whispered, "is nearly here." The boy in the suit reached into his jacket. He pulled out a folded newspaper, the same headline about the derailment in 1956. He held it out to me like an invitation. "Read," he said. "Learn your place." I slapped it away and it dissolved mid-air into gray ash that vanished before it hit the carpet. The conductor's voice filled the car, shaking the very walls. "Tickets!" he boomed. "Prepare your tickets for collection!" The passengers obeyed instantly, raising slips of faded paper in their pale hands. Every one of them had a ticket now, everyone except me. He walked slowly down the aisle, boots thudding heavier than they should. With each step, the lamps dimmed until only the faint glow from the tunnel creatures lit the car. When he reached me, he stopped. The pocket watch swung like a pendulum between us. "Your ticket," he said. I don't have one," I stammered. "You never asked." His lips curled in a smile, thin and merciless. "Then you don't belong here." For one heartbeat, I thought that meant I was free, that I would be cast out, thrown back into life. Relief bloomed. But then he added, almost gently, "And those who don't belong must be claimed." The windows burst inward with a deafening crack. Frost exploded across the aisle, and the creatures from the tunnel began to pour in, their skeletal arms stretching too far, too fast. The passengers didn't scream. They welcomed them. The family opened their arms in eerie unity. The woman with the hatbox held it out like an offering, and the boy in the suit whispered, "At last, it begins." I ran. I didn't care where. Through the vestibule, through the next door, straight into another car 7. The carpet blurred, the hum roared. The passengers waited with their dead, patient smiles. The train had no escape. It was a loop, a trap, a coffin on wheels. And yet I kept running, because the alternative was to stop and let the conductor take my soul with his broken watch and his endless, final stop. The train screamed as it barreled forward, the wheels shrieking like tortured metal. The black tunnel gave way to a dim, frozen landscape, moonlight glinting off jagged peaks and cliffs. The storm was gone, but in its place stretched a wasteland of snow and shadow. At the far end of the car, the conductor raised his pocket watch high. Its broken hands gleamed, locked at 227, and his voice thundered through the car. "Last stop." All passengers disembarked. The pale faces around me turned as one. The family shuffled forward in perfect unison. The boy in the suit adjusted his cuffs, calm as a priest before a sermon. The woman with the hatbox cradled it close, the lid rattling from the thing inside. They moved toward me, not to leave the train but to take me with them. The tunnel creatures poured through the broken windows, eyeless faces pressing in. Their limbs stretched, grasping, searching for me. The cold from them was absolute, not just temperature but the absence of life itself. The conductor's voice was iron. "Without a ticket, you belong to them." One of the creature's hands wrapped around my wrist. The bones of its fingers pressed into my skin, burning with frostbite. My vision tunneled, and for a moment I saw myself reflected in its hollow eyes, already pale, already one of them. "No!" I screamed, wrenching free. I shoved past the family, their heads swiveling in unnatural jerks as they reached for me. The little girl's painted eyes clicked open and shut like shutters. I rammed my shoulder into the door to the vestibule. Car 7 again, but this time I didn't stop. I sprinted through. Another car 7, then another, everyone filled with the same passengers, waiting, their dead eyes following me. Each car smelled stronger of frost and mildew, the hum louder, as though the train itself fed on my panic. Behind me, the conductor's voice boomed through every intercom at once. "You cannot outrun the last stop." I reached one more vestibule, slammed the button, and stumbled into the next car. But this time it was different. Instead of passengers, instead of familiar faces, I was met with a blast of freezing wind. The door on the far side was wide open, snow whipping in. The world beyond was not another car 7, but a sheer drop of mountainside and endless night. The train was crossing a trestle bridge high above a black chasm. It was suicide, but it was also the only way out. He appeared behind me, impossibly close, pocket watch dangling inches from my face. His gloved hand reached toward my shoulder, his static voice low and final. "Stay, sir." Everyone rides alone, but no one leaves. For a split second, I felt the weight of his truth, that to jump was to die, that the fall would smash me into the same oblivion as the wreck of 1956. That maybe I was already dead, and this was just the form it took. But then I remembered the platform back at Caldwell Ridge, the sign sliding past while he told me not to leave. Maybe this was the same choice. Maybe leaving was the only way to live. I turned, took one last look at car 7, at the passengers with their endless, waiting smiles, and I ran. Snow tore at my face as I hurled myself into the black. For a heartbeat, I felt nothing but the wind, the abyss swallowing me whole. I waited for the impact, for the cold grip of the tunnel creatures. Instead, I hit ice. Hard, brutal, but real. I gasped, the air burning in my lungs. Above me, the train thundered across the bridge. For an instant, I saw pale faces in the windows, all turned toward me, all smiling as the cars rattled past. The conductor stood in the last vestibule, cap brim shadowing his eyes, watch in his hand. He tipped it once, in mock salute. Then the train vanished into the mountains, its horn fading into silence. I stumbled through the snow until dawn broke. A highway, a truck stop, fluorescent lights. The cashier stared at me like I'd walked out of a grave. When I asked where I was, he told me the name of a town 50 miles from where I boarded. There had been no storm, he said. No train scheduled that night. I looked at my wrist. Frostbite burns where the creature had grabbed me, the skin raw and blistered. I never found my backpack. I never found my ticket. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the faint hum of rails beneath me and the echo of a pocket watch ticking, always stuck at 2:27. And I know the conductor is still waiting for me to take my seat on car 7. So what do you think? Was he lucky to escape? Or did he only buy himself a little more time before the conductor comes calling again? The truth is, some rides don't end when you step off the tracks. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget, every like, every comment, and every new subscriber keeps Campfire Horror Stories alive and growing. Your support means the world, and it helps bring even darker tales to the firelight. And remember, if you ever board a midnight train through the mountains, keep an eye on the other passengers. If they don't blink, if they all breathe in unison, you might already be on your way to the last stop. Sleep well, if you can.